Storytime on how a man followed me into my apartment and tried to harm me. Okay, so boom. I'm 19 years old and I've been living alone for the past year. It's just me and my pet dog, and every morning and night I walk my dog. A bad habit that I have is that since I live in a safe neighborhood, every time I go downstairs to walk my dog, I leave my door unlocked. I never thought that anyone was even watching me, to be honest. My thought process was like, since the door is closed, no one is going to actually think it's unlocked. But that wasn't very smart of me. One very scary night, my life changed. It was around 10 o'clock at night, and I did my usual routine and started walking my dog. I left my door unlocked and thought nothing of it, especially since around this time no one is really outside. I went back upstairs to the 4th floor where I stay and opened my door, then walked inside and closed my door. But I didn't lock it just yet. I was taking off my dog's leash. Then all of a sudden a 40-year-old man opened my door. Follow and like for part 2. Part 2 on how a man followed me into my apartment and tried to harm me. Okay, so boom, like I said, I was taking off my dog's leash, and because I left the door unlocked, a 40-year-old man just opened my door. At this point, I was at a distance from the door and closer to my bedroom. My dog started barking, and then I said, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" But I did say it in fear. Then the man took a step in my door and said, "I just want to talk." My door was still slightly open but more closed, and he was fully into my home at this point. He told me to go into my room and be quiet or else he would use his weapon. He had a gun. I didn't want him to do anything to me, so I listened. But I had hope because I also had my boyfriend's gun in my room. My boyfriend leaves it there so I can protect myself. I never thought I would have to use it, but I'm glad my boyfriend thought of my safety, regardless of what I said. I walked to my room shaking with him about 10 steps behind me. As soon as I walked in, I grabbed the gun, turned around, and shot him. Like for Part 3 on how a man followed me into my apartment and tried to harm me. Okay, so boom, like I said, I walked to my room shaking as he was 10 steps behind me. I told my dog to heel because I didn't want this man to harm my dog either. As soon as I walked into my room, I took the gun and shot him. The man fell to the ground and so did his weapon. I turned on the lights and shot him right in the stomach around here on his side. My neighbors all came out after the shot and we all called the cops. They got there pretty fast. And my boyfriend stayed with me for 3 months every day after that. They did an investigation and looked at the cameras. Turned out that he'd been stalking me the whole time. He knew my habits and planned to get me at the right time. Even if you feel alone, someone can be watching. I'm grateful for my boyfriend for leaving his weapon with me. He has like 3, but leaving one with me saved my life. Who knows what would have happened to me had I not shot this man. The shot missed his abdominal muscle, so he lived, but it's going to be a sad life. Like and follow for part 4 to find out what happened. Part 4 on how a man followed me into my apartment and tried to harm me. Okay, so boom, like I said, he knew all my habits and planned to get me at the right time. You never know who's watching you, even if you feel alone. The shot missed his abdominal muscle, so he lived. But it's going to be a sad life. The doctor said that his injury looks like eventually it would lead to death. And even if it doesn't, he will be very weak and fragile. So he couldn't hurt anyone even if he wanted to. But until then, he will be in jail. So no matter how safe you feel, make sure you are protecting yourself. And don't be like me doing stupid things like leaving your door unlocked. It takes 2 seconds to lock your door, and that could be the difference from life or death. Stay safe, guys, both men and women.
Story time about how I ruined my ex-best friend's relationship and reputation in 2 days. So a little background information, I was 14 in 8th grade. I was in a very toxic friend group of 3, and we all secretly talk crap about each other. So 2 of the girls in my friend group decided that they didn't want to be friends with me anymore, for absolutely no reason. The one girl texted me saying, "I don't want to be friends with you anymore," and then the other girl literally just played along with it because she can't think for herself. She was like, "Yeah, I've been planning on doing this for like 2 weeks." So I got very embarrassed by this because they started going around the school telling everybody about it. And not to sound like that person, but I was really popular. I had a lot more friends than them, and the only reason why people liked them was because they were my friends. Anyway, so I started texting the boys that they liked. And I was like, "Hey, I think you should know that they've been talking to other people while they're talking to you." And I just thought that that was really wrong. And when they asked who, I gave them names of boys that they both used to talk to. And then when the girls texted me about it, like for part 2 about how I ruined my ex-best friend's relationship and reputation in 2 days. So like I said, I texted the boys that they liked saying that they were talking to other people. And then of course my ex-best friends got mad and then they started texting me about it saying, "Oh, why are you lying? Blah, 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 blah." And I was like, honestly, I just think it's really wrong for you to try and play these boys who actually have feelings for you. Yes, I know I was a little crazy, but who isn't? Anyway, so then I decided to get my mom involved. because I had been friends with these girls for a while, so my mom knew their parents very well. So I told my mom I was really worried about them because they were starting to get into really bad stuff and hanging out with the wrong crowd, so I couldn't be friends with them, and they tried to talk me into doing stuff. So then my mom called their parents. Well, then their mom started to drop them off and pick them up every day because they were grounded. Well, then their mom started to apologize to my mom because their kids were such bad influences on me. And then when everybody asked why we stopped being friends, I told them that they made fun of my grandma who isn't alive, and 4 years later, everybody still hates them.
Back when I was in middle school, my sister had got pregnant in high school. And she had got pregnant by a guy which she was dating for around like 8 months. When my sister finally got the guts, she had told our parents. And my mom and dad were extremely furious. My mom had told her that she's not allowing her child to bring any bastard children in the world. And that the only way that she can have her baby is if she gets married. And my parents were really religious. My dad was a preacher. My dad's ultimatum to her was to either get married or have an abortion. He really cared about our image to the church, and he said that she needed to get married. My sister at the time, she really wanted the baby, so she kind of proposed to the guy that she was dating in a way. But he had said no. 2 weeks later, the reason why he said no was because he already had another child and another baby on the way. Come back for part 2 of how my sister proposed to a guy that she was dating. So her boyfriend had said no, and she ended up finding out the reason why he said no was because he already had another child and another baby on the way. But she didn't find out through him. She found out through his mom. She had went to his mom to get her blessing, and she spilled everything. And his mom had no clue that she even existed. The whole time that they were together, he was already with 2 other women. She had first saw his son, who was running around in the house. And the girl that was pregnant at the time was the girl that he was dating for like 2 years. Instead of her receiving his mom's blessing, his mom told my sister to stay away from him because she don't want her ended up like his other baby mamas. Not knowing the reason why she even asked for his blessing was because she was pregnant as well. After everything his mom told her, she told her thank you, and she left.
This is why you should always be honest. Once there was a bus driver who made a horrible mistake, but the way he tried to fix it was even worse. So this bus driver worked for the local county hospital. One day he was driving 20 patients to the insane asylum when he got thirsty. So he decided to stop the bus on the side of the road to get a drink. But when he got back on the bus, he realized what a terrible mistake he made. The entire bus was empty. All the patients had escaped and was nowhere to be found. Worried he would lose his job, the driver came up with an idea. Something he would come to regret years later. He drove the empty bus to a nearby bus stop and waited for people to get on the bus. Then he drove them all to the insane asylum and said that they were especially delusional and needed to be restrained. Many months later, the staff finally realized what was going on, but by then it was too late. A lot of those people were actually pushed to insanity, and to this day, the real patients still have not been found.